So Rory O'Connor from Rory Stories, you're very welcome to the Bulletproof Dad podcast. How are you, sir?
Good, yeah. Good to be here.
Great to have you in, buddy. I said when I started this podcast, the amount of lads in the gym who said to me, you need to get your man from Rory Stories on. So here we are today. So really excited to go about this. First and foremost, of all your achievements, the biggest thing is you're a proud meat man. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
So that says to me two things. You love GAA and you hate the Dubs. Is that fair?
Yeah. There's no point in denying it. Yeah. I'm married to a dub, but you're listening.
Right, we might get into that in a little bit. So can you take us back? Right, we go to young Rory at the start, like growing up. You're an Ashburn man. So what's that? 3 or 4 miles from the Dublin border, just about?
Yeah, at a push. Like, I can actually walk to Dublin from my house. Like, and I often do. There's a famous run in Ashburn called the Ballymadone Run.
Right,
it's about an 8K loop around, and you run by Barney Rock's house. Like, sick of running by that there for about 6 years period when there was just Dublin flags everywhere and pictures of Dean 4 in a row, 5 in a row.
The reg plates kept coming up.
So that's how close it is. Yeah, you literally, and because of COVID now they have a sign, welcome to Dublin, welcome to Meath, so people knew stay in your county. So it's very, very close.
Yeah, cool. So like, tell us, what was it like growing up then in Ashburn? Like, I imagine GA was a big part of your childhood growing up. Was that?
Yeah, so born and bred, my mum and dad, both from the Midlands, Westmeath and Offaly, bought a house in Ashburn in 1982 when Ashburn was tiny, like little bit like Swords, a little village, like. So I grew up in a place it's called Garden City. Our term was the big estates, just loads of little housing estates everywhere. So I grew up there. Great upbringing, great childhood. Like a lot of people who grew up in housing estates, out on the road every day, playing curbs, playing squares. Playing, all them games, Missions Through Gardens, IRA, all them kind of games that we associate with growing up in the 90s, like, and yeah, just great memories, really did, like.
Yeah, and then did you get into the garden? I'm just kind of keen to talk about that because I know it's a big part of what you do and a big source of your material for what you've done since. Did you get into that from a young age, or were you into other sports? And then
no, it was. Yeah, so again, the backfield, it's my old primary school, Declan's the backfield there, and Dunamore, Ashburn, done Acorns. So my sister went up. I think she was maybe 6, and I followed her up, and I was only 4. And I just took an interest straight away myself, like, and she faded away pretty quickly, and from then it just grew. And played with Dunamore from under 5, 6, 7 until under 10. And we actually, funny enough, we played our football in Dublin at under 10 in the North. Is it the underage North team or whatever? But anyway, it's a North League, so we would have played weekly against Ballymun, Whitehall, Erin's-Isle. All these kind of north side clubs.
I didn't realise in the Dublin League. I would have assumed you're in the Meath League.
I could be wrong, but I don't think maybe there was an under 10 in Meath then. So this would have been 96, 97, which is strange because Meath were Meath then, like winning All Irelands. But anyway, all my under 10 matches were played over the border against Dublin clubs. Like, as I said, I always joked to Philly McMahon, my mate. I was like, God, I hated when I seen an Evening Herald Ballymun away. Like, had to go into, I think it was either Albert College, I think they used to play. And you'd be driving in with the flats and all, and you'd be terrified. Like, and, playing against Ballymun Kickums, and like, they just looked at you and you were intimidated. Like, but again, great memories. Like, so it started from there.
They're the things that mould you. I know, like, my background is football. And like that, back in the day, we would have been in the North Dublin leagues. Ashburn would have been in our league as well. We would have played them regularly. But there was an old soccer pitch in the middle of Ballymun called the San Siro was the nickname because all the flats were around it. And I remember going, I think it was like under 9s, and they'd all be out on all the locals would be out on the actual balcony shouting down. I remember being 9 years old going, well, what is this? Like, just been blown away by it, but that intimidation. But again, they're the sort of things that when you're young, that's the exposure you need to kind of build up your confidence.
It's amazing. Like,
it gives you those life experiences.
I always remember I played midfield, obviously, and I'm standing in the midfield against the two Ballymun. And it's funny how little things stay, which I turned around to his mark and I looked down and he had stained blood and mud in his legs, and the match hadn't even started. I was like, this fella hasn't had a wash around. Like, and like ear piercings and all, and just like, you just knew, like, this
welcome to North Dublin,
welcome to Ballymun, like, and I know Philly spoke about that's what they used as their animation over the years. Like, when you play Ballymun, you knew that you were going to be intimidated. That's what they used as a a kind of a legacy against it before you play it. Balls thrown in, they know that Ballymun are going to bring it to them.
But
So
to be fair, even all clubs, like if you're the only Meath team in that league, you're probably have a target on your back everywhere you go around Dublin. You know, you're that little bit different because you're 3 miles over the border or whatever it is.
You're the boggers, like the ultimate boggers. And like what made it more for me is the guy was a giant under 10, like, and as anyone might have ever came across him, like proper giant, like I would have been like touching 6 foot at 10, like really exceptionally tall fella. So I stood out, like, so I was obviously the target, like. So obviously he's going to go for the big lad.
Did your dad have to bring your passport to the matches?
That's
to prove your age?
I on my heart and soul, Jimmy Walsh, my old manager, still know him very well, legend of man. He said to me, "That's a fact. Like people would ask for Rory's birth cert at matches, like because I was genuinely a man child, like at that age, like
Very good. So then, did you stay with that all through your childhood and teenage years? Did you keep playing all the time? Was it a big part of your growing up?
All the way up. Played with Dunamore under. All the way up, and I suppose I began kind of playing a bit with Meath then under 15, got called into a county trial, and that was a real turning point for me because I suppose I was probably hanging around, I suppose, like places I shouldn't have been then. Like
15, 16 is that kind of critical age, isn't it?
Yeah, because school wasn't for me, so I kind of fell into that drinking cans, smoking hash type of environment when I was 12, 13, 14, and could probably lucky, and again, people have to be with the GA saving you, and it definitely was me. And once I got into the Meath under the team, and I suppose got playing with Meath, I was very proud, and that kind of pushed on from there. Yeah.
So tell us then, how many years did you play with Meath at underage then? Because that's obviously a big step.
Yeah,
for you.
So under 15, then I would have played 16. Then I played minor for 3 years.
Yeah.
It was again so big, and then I played under 21 again for 3 years, and then I got as far as Meath juniors. Just listen. Out straight, just mobility wise, senior football was probably out of reach, and technically maybe as well. Like I was just a big, strong fella.
What year can you remember roughly? What sort of time period you talking about there?
So I
played. Gone through a big change.
Yeah, so minor
10,
my age minor was 2005. And I was lucky enough to captain the Meath team that year, and it was still a great honour. Like
Wow. What age had you been?
I would have been 18. Like
that's
so was,
class. That's a huge responsibility at 18 years.
Yeah, and it meant an awful lot to me because like I'm very proud about being from Ashbourne, and Dunamore Ashbourne as a club were never really respected in Meath because we used to be always called the Dubs in Meath, and
you couldn't win either way. Yeah,
and even like now we'd be a strong senior team, but like even then we were a poor enough intermediate club, and like for Dudley Farrell is his name, to put faith in a man from Dunamore Ashbourne to captain a Meath team, there wasn't many. I'm not sure if there ever was the captain, and so that meant a lot to me.
That's huge, yeah.
I remember going back to Ashbourne and telling a few stalwarts that I was named captain of the minor team, and they put up a big sign in the village and all.
That's amazing,
like it meant a lot, and again, because struggling a lot in school in them days, football was my only outlet, my identity, like, you know, and it just made me very proud, like, and even to, like, I done a talk recently for the Meath Miners, like, and I brought my old jersey with me with the number 8 in the back, and I said, listen, it still means, even though Rory Stories is very successful, this is still a huge part of who I am, and I'm very proud that I was a Meath Miner, like, you know.
And like, is your dad into the guy? Like, would he have taken value from that, having a son as captain of the league?
Any, especially from the country, like any son that plays county, like, you know. My dad drove me to every game, like from under 15 up, and like drove me to Navan twice a week, and very proud, like, you know, very proud to say that my son is playing with me.
Did that leadership, obviously the manager saw something needed to make me captain, it's huge. Like, of all the 18-year-olds playing around Meath at the time, you were the one that was made captain. That's massive. Like, did that leadership thing come naturally to you? Was that something you always had in you, or?
I'd like to think so, yeah. Like, it was never my football ability, really, like there ever was. It was just, I suppose, I think, natural leader, like, because are you born with leadership? I probably think you are, like so for me, like, again, when I was in school, I was the big fella in the classroom, but I wasn't the bully. Like, I was kind of like the mentor of the young. So, like, for instance, when we were in primary school, it was like, who's the strongest in the school, and I was never in the equation. I was like unfair. It was like a heavyweight and a lightweight. It was like, right, minus Rory, who's the strongest in the school, like. And I used to nearly ref fights, like,
right,
you know. So I'd be like the referee and let other lads bait each other in the yard to see who's the strongest, and I was just out of question, like. That's true. So it was that kind of mentorship, and I suppose felt older than my years, and I always have. Like, I've always felt, you know, older than my years, and So that maybe that kind of like speaking and motivational speaking and came from a young age, and it's funny, I do a lot of that now to companies and schools.
We might get into that a little bit more because I love to talk about kind of where you've got to now with that.
So that's where, I suppose that's where the manager's seen that. I mean, that when like again, because I was so big and strong, winning kickouts was my main factor, and you know, when a kick would need to be won, you'd win it and wind it out, because again, you're like that faded as you got into adult football, because everyone was as big as you, but then you didn't even had to jump, like, and just, cause I suppose the young lads would have probably looked up to me because I was so big and that, so that's probably where the captaincy came from.
Man. You mentioned there, like, you can see there the passion you have for the GAA, but you've also mentioned kind of school as the other big part of growing up. You don't seem to be as passionate about that. Can you tell me a little bit about what school was like for you growing up?
Yeah, so school wasn't great. Like, I went to it's called St. Declan's in primary school in Ashbourne. It's funny, probably regarded now as the best primary school in Ashbourne. Like, but when I was there, it had a bad rep. Like, it was a bit of a jungle. Like, to be honest with you, like it was rough. Like, you know, there was listen, God rest him, a very lenient kind of principle that, like, we kind of done what we'd want. Like, there was like, there used to be killings, as I said, out in the yard every day.
That was kind of normal though, from all skills, though it was.
Yeah, scrap.
It's nuts thinking about it now, but that's just the way it was.
You know, you just got in a fighting school and that was it. Like, and but in the classroom was where I struggled. Like, you know, as years went on, you know, and only recently I've diagnosed with dyslexic and ADHD, and something I'm really interested in these days. But like, going back then, I suppose, simple way, I just couldn't concentrate simply, and I tried to. And when you're a young lad, you know, and the teacher asks you to put up your hand if you don't understand what's going on here, you're not going to put your hand up, because like, and especially people, again, because I was so big, I didn't want people to think, oh, there's big dumb Rory. Like, and I believed I was dumb. I believed I was stupid. And it's funny, as the years went on, if you ever wanted to rile me, call me stupid, and I used to snap because it hit me right in the heart, because I believed it. Like, so I just fell into the class clown category, and it's sad now, but I would have spent a lot of my time out in the hall. We actually nicknamed it the Mad Cunts Hall, believe it or not. Like, it was where all the headbangers, like, still to this day, I'm best mates with one of them, but other lads, the reality of it is,
just been
like,
turfed out of class for messing, like, and
and the lads who were in that hall, like, now that were men, you know, one lad's in jail, a couple of lads are struggling badly with addiction, and it all makes sense, like, because they gave up on themselves. And I'm lucky that I had very strong parents, very strong community, the GAA to keep me, huge, and that's the thin line between ending up in jail or being successful. And yeah, you know, if you've ADHD and you're sitting in a classroom, like, and you're trying to concentrate, it's a disaster. Like, you know, and back in them days, there was only one remedial teacher. You had to be extremely bad to get into her classroom. I was a bit down the pecking order, and now they've SMAs now. But then, and anyone listening that went to school in the 90s and 80s can relate to that. Yeah. If you're not academically smart, it was a horrible environment to be in. So me in school never got on, and it kind of scarred me for a very long time. Like, probably still. Just feeling very stupid. Like,
well, as you said there, if that image is in your head growing up, as you call it there, big dumb Rory, like, that's a hard thing to shake. And everything you then go on your future endeavours, if you've that built inside as part of your identity, it's always going to bubble up every now and then, as much as you try and suppress it. So, like, you coming from school, then what was the next step? Did you do the leaving and then move on and go into the big bad world? Did you do a trade? What was the next step?
I done the leaving cert deployed, which is the hands-on approach now, and I'm kind of proud I done it, because, you know, at least now in Ireland, like, when students do LCA, they can quote Rory O'Connor, like, you know, Rory Story, he done LCA. Oh, wow, geez, he's successful. Like, when I was in school, there was it was very fresh. So I'm very proud of that. So I never shy away from my done LCA. Like, so I left then in 2005, and I actually went to Closhdeed and Finglas, and I done the sports management course.
Oh, very good,
Lasted 3 months. Again, loved the physical end of things, like, wanted to be a personal trainer or whatever, like yourself. But yeah, the theory, like, once I remember the teacher saying anatomy and physiology, and I just went, wow.
It is tough. Like, it's basically Latin, like,
and then hit the road, and then I got a trade as an electrician, and that didn't last too long, maybe a year and a half, maybe again, the theory end of things. And I've big shovel hands in me as well, trying to be delicately wiring stuff.
Go for fielding a football.
Yeah, but like even
blokes,
at that, like I don't have a great pair of hands on me, like really, like I a bit clumsy enough, like, you know, even playing football, you could go for 20 kickouts and only catch 10, like, you know, just a big but clumsy here, like basically, like, so, so yeah, I suppose, so that wasn't it. So that's where I was and around them days. And that's a hard place to be when you're kind of 18, 19, 20, not knowing what you're going to do.
Find yourself,
trying to find yourself,
And then I suppose, like, you're in your early 20s there. You've been through school, as you said, mixed emotions. Are you still playing football at this stage?
Yeah. Still playing. Lucky enough, we won the Mead Intermediate Championship in 2007. That was a great year. We went all the way to the Leinster Club final, and funnily we played Ravens, Fingal Ravens,
who are club here,
and that's what's amazing about that. You know, there's only 10 miles between.
That's only a local derby, yeah. Even though there's a county line, you know,
there was cousins and relations and. Ravens bet us that day, but it was great. Like, you know, we went on the beer on the Sunday, and then on the Monday we all went over the Kettles, and
it's a halfway house between us.
Yeah. So we got a minibus, and we went, us and the Ravens lads. I would have kind of known Butsy Daly a bit from playing Mead in Dublin.
He was playing at the time, was he?
Yeah, Butsy was playing. So that kind of, and then there's it's kind of tradition. It's like this Indian. I don't know if you ever heard. There's like an Indian in around that. Like when you win in championship, you bring this Indian with you everywhere. I'm sure there's a couple of people from Ravens or Rolls might know what I mean. I said it to a fella, and he said, "Did you bring the Indian?" I was like, "Actually, we did." There's this Indian they had in Kettles, and we brought it to every pub, Old Town, Ashbourne, Garrettstown.
A statue, not a person.
Yeah, no, statue. Yeah, little Indian. Honestly, I must. Hopefully, someone listening will reach out to you and say, "Yeah, I know what he's on." Yeah, we had this fella with us, bringing him into pubs and all, and
like the lion with the lions, is it? That
apparently,
sort of
it was a tradition anyway. So, but that was great. Like, they were great times then. Yeah, so football, and then I suppose 2013 kind of, football probably took a back seat. I had to get an operation done. I basically was blind in my right eye that I didn't realise. Maybe again, that's why the fielding wasn't as strong as it should have been. Like, it's funny, I went for a test, and I was told to put my hand over my left eye and read, and everything was blur, and it's gas. I didn't know.
How long do you think you had that?
Do you reckon you could have had it for 10 years?
Jesus,
like, which is fat. When you think about that for a second, like, because it's only if someone says to you, cover one eye,
wouldn't do it,
you wouldn't know. Yeah. So seriously blind, like everything was a blur. So anyway, went and realised I needed a cornea transplant, and I was advised you have to give up football. I was only 24, 25. You have to give up football.
The one thing that was consistent the whole way through.
So end of 2013, I got the operation done, and I'd stitches in my eye. And 2014, Dunamore were going well, and football was Everton to me. And Paul Clark came in and took over us.
Yeah.
And I still trained the lads. I wore this mental looking mad goggles and just ran up and down the sideline with the lads. And we got to the county final that year, the senior, and I suppose I was asked to give a speech before the throw-in, and that probably shows the connection with them. And it wasn't even, but just what it meant to me.
Because you couldn't play on the day.
Yeah, but it meant everything to me. Like, but anyway, that was kind of the year Rory Stories took off, was 2014, because it's funny, I had the time. I had the time to make a few sketches, and it's funny how one thing leads to another. And if I didn't have the eye issue, Rory Stories probably wouldn't begin. Like, you know,
a negative becomes a positive.
Yeah. And 2013 was a tough year for me. Like, I hit rock bottom. Basically, like, gambling was a big problem of mine. You know, and again, started from a young age. Like most lads, just put five on in the accumulator, and then. Again, with the ADHD, hyperactive focus is a real.
You're ticking all the boxes there, aren't you? Yeah.
So basically, like, if anyone doesn't understand it, is if you like something, you really can't control yourself. You're an addict, like so. So 2013, real bad weekend in Dublin. Drank all weekend and lost everything I had in the casino, and suicide was strong in the head. And
can I ask you a bit about that? Were you out with your mates? Like, was it like, did it start off as a nice night out? And
it's funny.
From there, or?
Yeah, so it kind of going back to football in Dunamore, so we were knocking on the door for years, like losing semi-finals, finals, whatever. And then 2013, we just had a real bad year. and we were knocked out of group stages. And again, for me, that was everything, like, and I was like, oh my God, without the fun. I was working in a call centre job that I hated. And
so that was your plan for the summer?
That was
gone,
gone, yeah. So drink, I remember it well, in town all day, drinking in, I think it was O'Donoghue's, and gamble, drink. Turn off my phone, didn't care. Like my daughter Ellen, who's 10 now, was only 1 at the time.
Oh, okay,
Drink, gamble. And that night in a nightclub, and it's funny, like Don McDermott, who's a friend of mine, was playing soccer in England, getting paid mad money, and he was buying free drink for everyone, and I didn't want to be there. Like, I wanted to gamble again, so I went back to the casino. And
so you actually left your mates?
Yeah, lied to the boys. Yeah, said I'm going home. But like, again, that's the problem with addiction, is there's just this voice in your head giving you a reason to go at it again. And went back and put my last couple of €100 on the roulette table, and I lost it. Like, and still to this day, like, and anyone who's ever been in a casino knows what I mean. But that noise of the chips scraping across the kind of green surface or whatever it is, that carpety surface. And it dawned on me that I had no money in my bank, literally, like, and I had no money in my pocket. And my wife, or my girlfriend Emma, who I've been, who is my soulmate, I have no problem admitting that. She's everything, like, and like lying to her, like, she's the only one that always has me back. And yeah, outside the casino that night, I remember it well. I just wanted to die. Like, it was horrible. Like, it was.
What can I ask you? What you did? Like, did you you obviously taxi?
Yeah. It's funny. So a few things entered my head, but one was, I suppose, the cousin that took his life by suicide when I was a teenager, and that landed with me about the impact that had on everyone, and I didn't want to be that person again. So I done the right and the brave thing, and I took out my phone. I rang my girlfriend, and she was angry, but she went to very much remorse me when she realised I was in a bad, I was crying and all.
Yeah, there was no point giving you a ball.
So as fate happens, I got in a taxi, and I asked him to bring me to Ashbourne, and it's fucking mad. Like 9 times out of 10, a taxi driver would say, pay me up front. Because when we were younger, like, it's not a nice thing to do, but we'd spend all our money on drink, and to be a certain place in Ashbourne, we bring a taxi man to where there's a dead end, and we just jump walls and run.
Every town the north side of Dublin has a spot.
Yeah. So
everyone's listening to this podcast is going, I've done that.
Yeah. So we have a place in Ashbourne. If anyone knows, it's in Alderbrook. You pull down, and there's bollards, so you can run through the bollards. We can't drive. I always felt horrible, because I'd be a good-natured lad, like, and I always felt you talk about fear the next day, like real bad fear, like. But anyway, that particular night, he didn't ask me for the money, and I got in. And I got home, and I knocked on the door. My wife paid him the 50.
Yeah.
And I asked for help, and everything kind of got better from there. But it just shows you, like, if that taxman had said, go fuck yourself, I'm not bringing you. Who knows? Like,
a few things have to align there for you.
Yeah, there was a little bit of fate happened to me that night. So
fair play, man. That takes a lot to admit, like, to be at that stage, because, like, the gambling's, like, we all have different addictions and different things, but gambling's kind of a strange one, because it's, unless you have access to someone's actual financial accounts, you can't really see it. Like, if you have an alcohol addiction, eventually you'll start smelling on someone's breath, or if it's drugs, you start seeing it in them.
Yeah.
Whereas with like gambling, you actually, if you're able to hide your finances, you can actually kind of get away with it for a long time. And like that voice in your head is probably telling you, no, it's fine. And I'm sure all your mates were probably gambling that day as well. It's part of the norm. You go out with the lads, like if you're on a stag or whatever, it's pub, few points going into the bookies you're in and out whatever. Whereas like it's just one of these things that for you, given I said the ADHD in particular, it just went to that other level. And I think like can I ask you just one kind of last point in that, like what was the next day like then? Because obviously you've come home, it's probably the middle of the night or something, and you're gone to bed and you're sleeping off the drinks, so you're hopefully thinking a little bit clearer the next day. Can you remember then what was kind of the next step when you say you got help?
Like I remember it well. Like it's all. Listen, I spoke about this. It's all in my memoir that I done a couple of years ago. Basically, get up the next morning on the couch and typical like I'm grand. It was the drink. Don't mind me, going into denial. And then my wife was clever enough to ring my dad to come down, and my dad was at the kitchen table, and I just had it out with him. Like, I remember it well. I couldn't even make eye contact with him. Like, the head was gone. Like, and I felt like for such a, I suppose it would say a strong and positive individual, I was broken. Like,
you had to leave your ego to the side.
I was weak. Like I felt so weak. Like I had no mental strength.
You mentioned there your daughter was only 1 at the time.
Yeah.
I know it's a hard thing to talk about in hindsight, but do you think if you weren't a dad, you would have reacted the same way, or do you think it would have been easier to brush off if you weren't a dad? Because obviously when you're a dad, there's this whole other level of responsibility comes on you that it sometimes takes us a couple of years to get our head around. Some lads never wrap their head around it.
Yeah, I
like,
think
was that a big part of it?
Yeah, I think and I think Tyson Fury spoke about it very well before, about the time he was driving that fast car and heading, and it just popped into his head that, you know, and he's gone, like, you know, someone will turn around to him and say, oh, your dad wasn't aimed for it, he killed himself. And then that was very powerful, and I could relate to that because like anyone who takes the life by suicide, like, you know, I'm sure the last thing they want to do is wake up and face a family member and go, why, you know, and listen, no one will ever know, but I'd like to believe that the majority of people who do take their life, if they could do it again, they wouldn't. Like, if you could nearly come back as like in a spirit and watch the devastation you've caused by your decision, I'd like to think you would rather ask for help than ruin. Because I've seen families ruined by it. Like, like, you know, people who die in, touch wood, in car accidents or by cancer, you can somewhat put. But when people take the decision themselves to get out of here, it's very hard to. It's very hard to kind of move on, you know.
So, like, it just shows that you were kind of, that was in your head. That was it was either get help now, or that was very much a possibility for you.
And and this is probably why I'm so engrossed in positive mental health, you know, work I do, is because if I'd have went with a head with it that night, like, you know, I would have been the Rory O'Connor. What?
Yeah.
Oh my, like, for sure, he's great crack. He's, you know, and that's what's so scary about mental health. And the most common question people ask me when I do talks is like, Rory, what signs can we look for? Very difficult question.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reality of it is. But I suppose it's funny, like, I know you were speaking to Andy McEnany recently, like, and as God is my judge, like, after I spoke to my dad, the next person that rang was Andy. Like,
okay, did you know him through the football scene?
Andy was our manager in Dunham. The year we won that intermediate.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
So Andy was Andy's a great man. Like,
no, we had a great time here.
He's no matter what Andy ever does, he'd be a legend in my eyes. Like, you know, because he was there when it mattered for me. Like, and you know, the Busey, you know, he might have got off some meat spars.
Yeah, we talked about it here.
Yeah, it kind of annoyed me because, like, people, like, whatever about his decisions on the sideline, you can never question his heart and his belief in Meath football, and that's what pissed me off. Like, it was like, people don't understand what that man, like, his passion. So anyway, the reason I rang Andy was because the Christmas Eve before he buried his brother Shane, like, and I remember being at the funeral in Nobber on Christmas Eve, and a lovely, I'll never forget, a bright, cold day, and here we were burying Andy's brother from suicide, you know, and Shane was another great soul who helped a lot of people, and another person who probably was too good to people, and he couldn't deal with negativity from politics. So it's very sad, like, you know, and that's why, you know, I would have been another, probably maybe Shane, like, and I didn't want to be that, you know, oh my God, Rory's another one, you know, that we never thought coming. So
thank God you had the perspective to kind of see that in all the midst, because I imagine your head's all over the place, and you're in a cloud.
Yeah, well, between my own tragedy of my cousin and Shane McEnany, it was fresh in my head, like. So as I said to you, I asked for help back then, and help came, and came from Jerry Cooney in the Rutland Centre, and he spoke to me about addiction, and you know, and Rory Stories was born then.
So obviously that's a big extreme now. Like, we're going to talk about Rory Stories when that's come from, but like, you're literally speaking there how raw an image. That's a real vivid image of you sitting there at the kitchen table with your wife and also your dad, like, at rock bottom. So how does this lead to putting out really funny, good quality content online? How does that come about then from where you were?
Yeah, so as I said, Jerry in Rutland Centre said to me about addictive personality, how you use it in a negative or a positive. And negative is your gambling, drugs, alcohol, the obvious ones, but positive is something you're passionate about. And he said any successful human being kind of has that addictive personality, and they just channel it. So I went away and I said, well, I've honestly always wanted to get into acting and comedy. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I'm definitely not good at. And again, I know it's subjective, but like, for me, and like, only you know, through your own eyes, your impact on people. And one thing for me was, everyone I spoke to, I generally made them laugh. just by being myself. Like, you just have that personality where jokes just came natural to you. And I'd like to think anyone that does know me, like, all my life, will probably agree with that. When you meet Rory, he'll give you a giggle, like, you know what I mean? It's just, but I never thought it was possible to do anything like that, you know what I mean? Because you're never told in school that, okay, you're not academically bright, but you have a good personality and you could be, you know, you could be whatever. But back in the 80s, 90s, it was just all education led by spellings and maths, and which is very disappointing, like, you know, because a lot of lads with huge potential turned to addiction and were gone.
Behind,
left behind. So it's funny, I started Rory Stories on the 4th of November 2013. How it sticks in my head is because, excuse me, it's my grandfather's anniversary. Like,
very good, yeah.
And I remember it well, and life is mad. And like, we're talking 10 years ago now, which like,
a lot has changed online in 10 years.
Yeah, like, but
so
back,
was it Facebook back in the day?
Yeah, Facebook was, there was obviously no Instagram, or there was Twitter, but Instagram, there's certainly no TikTok or like that. But so basically, remember it well in the kitchen, and I says, man, I'm going to start this now. Enough of this shiting around. And I says, I'm going to call it Rory Stories. I spoke to my cousin, Breffney, and he said I was going to call it A Story by Rory, and he said Rory Stories. And so that's his kind of claim to fame.
Right.
And he always reminds me of it. As well, if it wasn't for me, you'd fucking have no. So anyway, Rory Stories. And my mum, I remember vividly in her kitchen, says, Rory, today's a good omen. Granddad died, this is anniversary, so I said, maybe, yeah. So yeah, Rory Stories. So started off with a blog, writing stuff about myself, and how I get out there is I tweeted to, you know, anyone who I remotely knew in the GA circuit. So say a Paul Flynn or a Darren Daly or a Philly McMahon or a Joe Sheridan or anyone that I might have even over 1,000 followers, and ask them, would you retweet this for me? And it's funny, like, you know, how your expectations goes. I remember, like, lying in bed, like, one night, and my phone beeped, and it was like maybe Dean Rock retweeted your thing, and I was buzzing, going, oh my God, deadly, like, you know. And so that started with the blog, and then I started a Facebook page, Rory Stories 2014, and first sketch I done was, we were training up in Dunamore one morning. I said, lads, would you mind just sitting in the change room? I'm just going to come in off the cuff and do a skit. They're like, Rory, you're nuts. And I was like, I know I am, but just give us a shot at this. And so Trevor O'Neill, who I know, came up and recorded for me, and I just went in off the cuff and done a bit of a kind of a Dunbelievables type of sketch, and just tore into the lads and put it on Facebook or YouTube the next day, and it got picked up by, I think it was like Balls.e or one of them, maybe Joe.
That was huge at the time.
Yeah,
like, Balls and Joe were the big two,
it got picked up in like...
That's massive for the first ever
like
video.
This hilarious portrayal.
How many of your mates were in the video?
A lot of the team, like, you know. And
so they're all in the first Rory Stories.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
it's not on the Rory Stories YouTube channel, it's Rory O'Connor, but it has like 300,000 or 400,000 views on it. Like, and that was... Yeah, it's funny, we always laugh about it, like, you know, the boys are in, and it was all off the cuff, zero script, like, just, and you'd know it was because I come out with a few fucking random things, like, you know. But anyway, so
that keeps it pure to the GAA, though. We all had those managers.
Yeah,
just up, though, you
know? And it is funny, like, you know, like, again, if you're into GA, like, not everyone find it funny, but I think if you're a GA person, you will, because it's relatable. So anyway, the penny kind of dropped that no one has really done any GA sketches. Like, you know, I know Pat Short done a bit, and Dermot Morgan, Father Ted done a bit, but no one really...
One or two things, like, literally one or two skits.
Yeah,
like,
so with social media starting to grow, and I remember I was thinking iPhone 3 or 4, like a little tiny shite of a thing, and not knowing anything about social media, nothing about Facebook, or not knowing what I was doing. Just Paddy Murphy, who was a neighbour, I asked him, he was only a young lad, 17, would he come and help me? And he did. And anyone who else would help me, they would. And we just went down to the Dunamore pitch and started doing dirty corner back, cocky corner forward.
All the
stereotypes. And put them on Facebook. And like, they were starting to get a lot of traction. And within 6 months, there was 100,000 likes on this page.
Amazing, yeah.
I was like, fucking hell.
Can I ask you, where's your head at with that? Because that's a lot to happen in 6 months' time, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you're technically, well, I suppose the phrase now is Insta fame. I suppose it's Facebook fame. Yeah. Back then, like where are you at with that? Because, like, it's a lot of attention and eyeballs, and people are probably, I imagine, walking down Ashburn, well, maybe even outside Ashburn for the first time. Where's your man from that video?
Yeah, I suppose, now that it was starting, I always believed, and anyone listening that is either a business owner or on their way will know what I mean. There was a gut feeling there. There actually was a feeling where, like, where I am today at this moment in time, I knew I was going to be here. I knew it deep in my soul. I just didn't tell many people because, you know, in Ireland you keep it to yourself. But everyone, oh sure, you know, a bit of crack and all, and I just but in my head I was like, this isn't crack. This is going to be going to be big time. I knew it was. And again, anyone that has their own journey will tell you that, you know, only you see the vision, like, and no, everyone thought it was mad, like, you know, and but yeah, like, you know, you start to get attention but I just kept going, like, you know, kept moving forward.
Like, it's one of these things. I think in my personal opinion, you're an easy man to begrudge because technically what you did, anyone could do. But the reality is, before anyone else did it, you put your head out there and you have to put yourself out there. And you put yourself out there, you're open to lots of good feedback, but also negative feedback. So, like, I'd imagine when you start off and you're doing this thing, usually when most people start a business or a venture and they start getting a bit of success, everybody's happy for them. Great to see, brilliant, thumbs up, well done. But then all of a sudden this starts growing into an absolute monster, which is amazing, you know. Did the narrative change a little bit? You know, when you get, it's a weird sort of thing, but when people get to a certain level of fame, it's like all of a sudden they're entitled to be hit and, you know, picked at. Like, what was the kind of extremes? I'm sure you got lots of nice feedback of that was a great video, that's gas, and people tagging their mates and putting themselves laughing. But like, there's a real dark side to social media as well. Like, did you experience that in the early stages, or has that come along, or how have you found that?
Yeah, listen, of course, like, I suppose I rewired my mindset recently around that, and now I'm fine with it. But back then, like, you know, you kind of have that, will you try to do it, or you just get caught up in that fucking stupid mindset of like taking it to heart, like, you know, and yeah, like the way I would sum it up is kind of like, all right, I'm in Ireland, I'm gonna start a business. Jesus, fair play to you. I wish you the very best of luck, but Jesus, don't become a millionaire. Oh, Jesus, if you become a millionaire, I'd fucking hate that. Yeah. And that's unfortunately Irish's mindset, where the Yanks are a bit different. Like,
big time, yeah, we're so,
you know,
so different.
We're desperate like that, and when I talk in schools, you know, that's one thing I ram home to them is like, you know, instead of looking at someone that's not being able to figure out why they're successful, learn off them and use your gift and learn from their routine. Like, and that's what, like, you know, how does anyone find this fella funny and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, plenty of negativity. But the good thing is about it is, like, if no one gave a shite about you, you wouldn't see any negativity.
Exactly,
like.
yeah.
And that's what people need to get their head around. Like, if there's no negative comments under your stuff, it means no one gives a shit about you, and they nearly feel sorry if you're going, poor harmless, how we're making them. So negativity is definitely good, and anyone who might be in the game, please understand that it is good. It's not nice. So that was fine. And like, what used to be always hard is when so say you've Rory Stories Facebook page, for instance. So a lot of people who follow that obviously like it. It's when other people like a Benchwarmers or a Joe would share your video and it's exposed to people who never liked your videos, then the negativity comes. And that's just natural. Like, so I've been on off, but I experienced a really bad experience in 2018. Myself and Enya Martin, give us a laugh, teamed up.
Yeah, you used to some great stuff. Yeah,
yeah, we had a great connection for a couple of years. Myself and Enya, like,
that one about the stag when you came home from the stag.
Yeah.
For anyone who didn't see that, you need to check it out. It's like, you basically get a bollocking for coming home from a stag. You're in rag order.
Yeah.
And it's all done and dusted. And then the last one is, oh yeah, the lads are down the pub, we need to go down. And it's so poignant, because like that, you've gone away in the lash for 2 or 3 days, you come back in bits, and then like you have to get in your bollocking, and then go back down the pub now.
Yeah. So like,
and I think everybody can relate to that.
Yeah,
we've all been at that point.
Myself and we were on a roll, me and Enya. So basically, it worked really well because.
Sorry, I'm not taking you away from that. That was just something I really enjoyed. We'll go back to you were saying there was something happening in 2018.
Yeah, so I said myself and Enya made all these couple of sketches, and they were massive hits. Like, they were like millions of views.
She's brilliant as well. Like,
we just hit it off. We connected really well, and like, Enya's gone out with a fella, Gareth, 10 odd years, and I'm with Emma like a long time as well. So anything I said to Enya, if she agreed, we'd sketch, and everyone related to it. There was one particular sketch we made, my mum's kitchen actually, was like when a man comes home from work, what he's greeted to. So basically it was like, I come in the door and Enya's like, did you bring out the wheelie bench? Blah, 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 blah. And I go, will you relax? And I'm only out sitting down, which, listen, anyone in a real relationship will say it's true.
Especially with young kids, yeah. It's a
So anyway,
yeah.
I put it up online anyway, and I checked it after maybe a half an hour, and it was hitting the normal figure. So, right, that's a solid hit, whatever. Then that evening we were going to Lahinch with my family. It was me, Emma and Ella and Zach at the time. And I turned off my phone for a few hours, like, because that's what I do with my family. And I went and had a lovely day. And I come home that evening at the hotel and put up my phone. I turned on, I just went, I was like, what the fuck? And there was text off Enya going, please ring me. Have you seen Twitter? And Al Foran, I remember texting me saying, oh, don't mind him, pal. And my manager texted me saying, give us a ring when you can. And loads of people were texting me, like, I have a cousin's WhatsApp group, and they were all saying, geez, Rory. And I was like, what the fuck? So I never forget, I turned on Twitter and I was like, it has like, no, it's like 20 plus, and mentions were, and I hit it, and it was like, oh my, it just had a, Rory Stories is a domestic violence advocate, and I was trending. Like,
I don't know the video now, sorry.
Yeah,
so,
you'd have to go back and see it, but it basically someone, listen, it's very hard to word things nowadays, like feminist, I suppose. I don't know, again, what way you can word it, but someone that, like...
Someone took offence to the video.
Someone took offence to the video who had a big following, and they retweeted it and put it into a different context, and they just brought in an army of people. So not only... Which is very disappointing. Not only did they have these people who took it up wrong that don't know me, but you had people who never liked Rory Stories coming and jumping on. That pissed me off, like, because... You're always going to have haters, like, and what happens is when you're in a low point or some negativity comes, they come running from everywhere and they give you a boot. It's like in a playground, like the bullies come from everywhere and kick every part of your body. Same online. So whenever you have a decent profile online and you make a mistake, the people who've never liked you, they come sprinting with axes and hammers, and it's very sad. Like, and that's what annoyed me. Like, I'd be going through Twitter, seeing these people that never liked me, and I told you I was right about him, and it was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So what did I do? Obviously, I was a bit emotional, and I didn't know how to handle this. Like, it was
because obviously that wasn't the intent of the video.
Of course not. Listen, and anyone knows me, but it is what it is, and So I held. My manager said, Rory, just ride the storm. Really annoying thing is I got a phone call off the publisher of my second book was coming out, Rory Stories Guide to Being Irish, and I'd loaded media interviews set up, they were all pulled.
So you're borderline being cancelled.
Yeah, big time, comments, I was so annoyed. The girl, Ellen rang me saying, yeah, listen, these pulled out and these pulled out, and I was like, you're fucking joking me, like. And I was just sitting, and what's amazing, and anyone again who has kids, is I was sitting in this hotel with my wife, and she was trying to kind of reassure me, and all my little wanted to do was play Barbie with her in the corner, like, and the little fella crying in the baby pen, and I was like, yeah, fuck me, like, this is mad, like, I remember just like, Dad, will you come and play with me? And here I am playing Barbie with my daughter while the whole internet is kicking me.
Yeah,
it's like,
nuts, that's so
it's two worlds, like, you know, and...
did you question it then? Like, did you ask yourself, is this fucking worth all this hassle?
I did,
like,
yeah, and like... I probably made one mistake. Listen, a local fella who worked in whatever you want to call it, a website, wrote a bit of a horrible article about me, like,
right.
And he's from my own club, like, wrote about, like, Rory Stories, and he quoted all the negative tweets. That fucking roiled me, like,
because he knew him,
and I rang a fella who knew him. I said, I want his number now, and I rang him, and I said, what the fuck's your problem? And I probably shouldn't have done it, like, you know. Look, in those, it's easy look back with hindsight, but in those moments, like, your back is up against the wall there. You've what probably feels like the whole country. It feels like the whole country does. So even though, like, I think the reaction there is, when you think about it logically, is kind of understandable. While it might be the right one, it's understandable. I could accept people that don't know me, but the fact that this fella was from my own club, and he used his platform to have a dig at me, that roiled me, like. And I remember ringing him, and I wanted to meet him, and I said, I just want to meet you face to face and talk about this. And he said, unless you want to give me an interview. I said, I'm not giving you a fucking, I want to meet you, and I want to talk to you about why did you do that. And a few days later, actually, the head of this company rang me saying, "Listen, Rory," I said, "Listen, yeah, well, that was personal and that, and I see this fella, like, do you know what I mean? I haven't spoken to him since. I forgot about it." And again, as you said, we're only human. There's only so much you can take.
Yeah.
But again, for anyone like whoever experiences something like that, how did I manage it? I tell you exactly what I done. So I knew my manager says, "Rory, delete Twitter, and it will blow over." And everything blows over. And anyone who's ever been in that cancelled, trampoline or whatever you want to call it, you feel it never will, but it always does. So I lied in bed all that night, wide awake.
While you're supposed to be relaxing with your family on
yeah,
holiday,
that was horrible. Like, I was in Lahinch. I love Lahinch. It's a lovely place.
town, yeah.
It was 5 a.m. and I get out of bed. My wife says, "What are you doing?" So I'm going for a walk. I was like, "Are you okay?" I was, "Emma, I'm grand. Trust me." And I went out. And as God is my judge, it was lashing rain. And
That's it, West.
I remember I ran down to Lahinch Beach, and I sprinted and I sprinted and I sprinted and I sprinted, and I remember looking up at the sky going, "You won't get the better of me." Like, lost my fucking mind. I did. And the one woman was out walking a dog, and she actually looked at me, went the other direction. Like, I started punching fresh air. Like, do you know the scene in Boys Against Boys in the Hood, where Cubicle Jr. comes home and he starts punching fresh air? That's what I done.
Just trying to get this
energy
out of you.
I believe at that moment in time I would have battered McGregor. Like, put it that way. I had so much anger in me, and I'm a strong fella, and I needed to get it out of me.
Yeah.
So I ran up and down Lahinch Beach. I remember actually tweaked my hamstring and everything. I just ran. And I come back to him, I says, "I feel better now." And honestly, from that moment, I had a shower and I felt a bit better. Yeah. And it did blow over. Now, touch wood, I haven't really had that as bad as that since. But I remember deep in my soul saying, "Rory, if you get through this, you're ready." So now I have a thick skin.
Yeah.
So now any bit of negativity comes, I'm like, "Oh, whatever," like,
No, fair play. But I think that's where growth comes. Like, I find I'm running a business the last 10 years with the gym and now getting into the podcast. And it's like, I actually think most business stuff is kind of common sense. It's like it's a personal development journey you go on, and like, you hit these bumps along the way. Like, the scale you're at is unbelievable. Like, I'm looking at it here. I just checked your Instagram yesterday just for a bit of research. Like, you've 309,000 followers on Instagram. So for lads who aren't on Instagram, just to give you perspective, and I'll use this, you'll enjoy this example. One of your good pals, like Shane Lowry, one of the best known golfers around, he's got like 50,000 followers less than you. Like, that just gives you a perspective of how far this has grown from something that started in, was it the same kitchen table that you had? Oh no, it was your mother's kitchen table where you sat down and told you were going to do this thing. Like, that's just like, whatever, no one can deny you that is absolutely phenomenal. I know it's only one marker of progress, like, and again, they're just followers. Like, you get to that stage, I'd love to kind of go to the next stage, because that was fascinating. I really appreciate the insight to that. And to be honest, the image of pulling the hamstring probably puts into good context of how far you went.
I would have given you saying both a run for his money and say over. I didn't know what else to do. I had so much anger.
Yeah, you had to get it out.
And I knew responding online wasn't the answer.
So,
like everything, I turned to physical exercise. So
then with that, you obviously, as it's progressing, like, that was a big bump in the road. But like, at what point do you kind of look at this, go, right, I'm getting this attention. How do I turn this attention into a business? Like, I know I see now what you've done since. Like, obviously you still do the videos, and they're still, some of them are top class. Like, even a simple one the other day, I actually find myself doing this regularly. Remember at Christmas time, I was out, it was a couple of days after Christmas, I was standing in the green bin trying to fucking mush the thing down, get all the kids' presents. And I remember standing in my front garden in the bin going, I really hope the neighbours don't see me here. Like, looking like a madman's jumping, trying to get the stuff in the bin. And I remember saying to myself, this would make a great Rory Stories. And lo and behold, it was either that day or the next day, I was on Instagram, and there you had a whole skit about the green bin after Christmas with kids. I was like, this fucking lad is on it. Like, he's because you need to be topical on the moment and kind of go what's going. Like, it's not just that you put out these random videos. There's a tactic to it. But then, like, looking, like, was the next step from the videos going to the live shows, or was the book first? Because obviously they're big steps from just doing videos online.
So the live shows started as a GA clubs contacting me to do a show, and I said I was terrified, and a lot different standing behind the camera and then going
like a live show.
So, I always use the phrase when you hit rock bottom, like it's a great perspective on everything you do. Like,
Yeah.
so I remember saying, listen, if this gig goes good or bad, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to feel like I did outside that casino. So, yeah, they just started, and it's funny. I remember doing one gig in Meath, yeah, listen, I used to wing a lot of them gigs. Like, I'd get a list of names off the club secretary, and I'd rip the piss out of characters, and I'd have a stopwatch, and I'd go for as long as I could, and then I'd just stop because I'd no more material left, you know what I mean? And that happened one night, and I thought the gig went well, and I remember going back into the change room, and next minute, in come the committee going, I presume it's only half time, Rory. And I was like, no, I'm done. What do you mean you're done? I was like, I'm done. They're like, Rory, people, like, you only paid a tenner, and people came to see, and I was like, you only done 45 minutes. I was like, yeah, no, but, and I shit myself. It was the first time ever I was like, gave them back half their money. Like, I think I walked away with like €200 from the gig. Like,
That's a lot of stress for
you know.
£200,
And I remember saying, "Oh, listen, I'll do a training session with your minor team," and I absolutely folded. Like, you know, I was like, "Oh, I'm not really a comedian. Or I'm not really. I just do this for the crack," and I just, it was horrible. Like,
but like I think people's number one fear is public speaking, and number two is death. So like people are more afraid of speaking in public than dying, which is crazy to think about. it. But I think public speaking is one thing. Like, I do a lot of presentations and stuff in my line of work, but it's about topics and stuff. I remember having to do a best man speech a few months ago. It's the most nervous I've ever been for speech, because you're trying to be funny. It's a whole other level of pressure, and like that's what you're in front of a stage of people trying to make them laugh. Like, that's immense pressure. Like, I can understand where you're coming from there. Like,
so I remember driving home from that gig that night. Myself and Paddy in the car, there wasn't one word spoke between us, and I get into bed, and Em was like, "How'd you get on?" And I says, "Oh, I'm done. Like, so I'm not doing this anymore." And it was like
the whole Rory stories are just live shows.
Live, I think definitely the lives. That was that was horrible. And but the best thing ever was I had a club booked in the north the following Saturday night, and my wife said to me, she says, "Rory, you often speak about there's going to be times in your journey where it's easier to quit. You know, you just got to get through this." And I remember, like, I was still working full time CPL, so like I remember leaving the house on the Saturday and driving up the M1, and
that's a long drive, especially what you have ahead of you.
The anxiety through the roof, questioning everything, like really, like it's like nearly wanting the car to break down or someone, not to kill me, but maybe hit me, and I can't make the gig. Like head going 90. Yeah. And one of the best gigs ever, like, you know. And I remember driving back home. It was like, you know, you can take all the drugs you want in the world, but I think the natural euphoria you get off something like that the human emotions provide for the endorphins is better than that. And I had that. And I got home and I said to Emma, it was fucking dead because I told you. And that's the best thing I ever done. Like, you know, that was 2014, 15. Like,
amazing,
talking like 7, 8 years, 9 years ago, whatever it was. And just built a bit more resilience. And then, plenty of bad gigs, but just kept moving forward. And one thing led to another. And, you know, like a few years later, you're in Vicar Street, like, you know.
Amazing. But like you do tours of the whole country, and like you play music as well. You have a guitar, you do sing songs, and then you have guest speakers in as well.
So I done my first tour in 2019, very successful, a lot of sold out gigs, really enjoyed it. Then pandemic hit, fucking nightmare for everyone. And then
probably helped your story stuff.
It's funny, like, you talk about following there, like, so there's 1.2 million across social media at the minute, like, between
that you have,
between
amazing,
Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and that grew about 300,000 during the pandemic, like, because people are on the phone, and I probably took responsibility of, like, doctors were working hard in hospitals. And
I was just going to ask you that. Did you feel a sense of responsibility to help people, give people a laugh in this shitty times?
I stressed myself out. My mom used to say, "Rory, like, you need to give yourself a break here. No, man, people are waiting for these, and like, there's doctors making decisions on turning off life supports with people with COVID now. I think I can fucking do this, you know, and that's a fact. Like, and I remember during the pandemic, I was making up to 3 videos a day, like, and people and the feedback was very positive. Very seldom would you see a bad comment, and I just kept saying, "Rory, put in the hard yards now," like, you know what I mean. And then when the things are open, it'll pay off, hopefully. And I had a great tour last year, and when I was speaking to my manager about what do you want to do, like, Rory Stories is kind of a funny thing. It's like it's comedy, but there's a lot of well-being attached to my profile. So we worked in this concept and I got working really hard with a mate of mine called Mick, who's a great guitar player during the pandemic, and he taught me the guitar and
Oh, so you only learned it a couple
I
of
only
years ago?
learned it. Yeah,
Oh,
I
very good.
started a few lessons a few years ago, but like most people, quit. Like, and then I had a real passion to play the guitar because I can sing. Like, you know, I'm not Christy Moore, but I can sing a ballad. Like, so Mick worked hard on me, and I put together this show of like first half is comedy, second half is conversations, and then I finished with a few Irish classics, and went really well. Like,
That's
yeah.
even for anyone, no matter where they're at, like to just learn how to play the guitar and then like a year or two later be playing it from the
Do you
packed
know,
gigs.
it's actually,
nuts, like.
it's funny you say that. I only had a point recently with Mick. Mick's playing 20 years. He said, Rory, I haven't said this to you before, but the admiration I had for you. Mick came to my gig in Waterford, a sold out venue, 400 people there.
Yeah.
And he said, only I knew how lack of experience you have with that guitar. Like, you know, you played in front of no one bar me and your kids, and for you to turn around and pick up the guitar in front of 400 people and sing Town of Love Swell or Grace, whatever, he said, man, that was fucking inspiring. And I was like, geez, never. He goes, no, honestly, I've never seen that. And like, I was telling people about you. He says, lads, that lad didn't know any chords a year ago, and here he is. And what does that come down to? That comes down to ADHD, hyperfocus. It's like the gambling or the drink or the drugs. If you focus and like my fingers were bleeding playing the thing and I got it done, and now I'm over the hump, and even with the gig, like I was blessed. I sit down with Keith Earls, talk to Keith Earls about his career, talk to Sean O'Brien, talk to Philly McMahon, talk to really inspiring people, and it worked. Like Conor Moore, who's a good friend of mine, Conor Sketches, came to the show, came to the show and Drogheda, and he was like so interested. How's Rory going to pull this off? How is he going to make people laugh for 45 minutes and get them to shut up and listen to a conversation? But he said, man, you did, and it was great to see. So I have a couple of more gigs left now this year on I've that tour, and then I'll hopefully get a new one up and running next year. But yeah, in a good place with it. Yeah,
Top class, man. No, fair play to you. Like, because it's a big leap. As you said, it's one thing doing it in the safety net of behind the camera and putting it out online. You can edit it and do whatever, but being fully exposed out there on stage, it takes a lot of balls to do that. You've obviously done your 4 books now as well. 4, is that correct?
4, yeah.
For a fella who couldn't concentrate in school, that's not bad going either, is it?
Yeah.
You must have a bit of pride with that.
Yeah, no, listen, that's probably my biggest. And I remember 2017 when a book company said you should do a book, and I remember laughing to myself, being like, Rory, you can't even spell, pal, write a book. And then I said, listen, I need something to hold to prove I'm not stupid. I want to bury the word stupid. And I worked to the bone, like, and again, only people close to me will know how hard it worked. I remember getting up at 4 a.m. Because I Googled and researched when is a human being at the most productive. And it's either really early in the morning or really late at night, whatever way you're wired. And it's funny, Enya told me before, she's nighttime owl, so she's very creative, and I'm morning. So I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd run around Ashburn for 15 minutes, and I'd come back, I'd make coffee, I wouldn't look at anything phone ran, and I'd write from 5 to 7. And it worked. I know that's how I do that Monday to Friday, and 6 weeks later, my book was written. Like,
unreal. Yeah.
Rory Story's Guide to the GA. It's very surreal. Like, it was a top 10 bestseller that Christmas. The publisher rang me, apologized, and said he ran out of books. We underestimated it. Like, it sold like 10, 15,000 that Christmas, like books. Like, and he was like, we didn't see this coming. And then, the following year, I just came straight back with another book again. Like, I just kept going, and that was another hit. And
your next book was a bit different, wasn't it? The third book was the more personal one.
The second book was the Irish, being Irish, but the third book then was my memoir.
Was this, can I ask, was this before? Because you obviously did Hell Week, and then you struck up a relationship there with Rory Goggins. And
Ray Goggins.
Ray Goggins, sorry. So that's kind of changed your direction a little bit now, because you've done a good bit. Obviously, yourself and Ray have had some sort of click or connection, and you're doing a lot of work together. Kind of getting away from the comedy stuff with Rory Stories and the gigs, I know is kind of, there's a mix and match of both, because you have those deep discussions with your guests that are on. But can you tell us a bit then about how that third book, going down the mental health route a little bit more? I know we spoke about it at the start, and also the work then you've done with Ray, because I imagine they're quite closely linked, are they?
Yeah, so in 1920, Gil said about doing another book, and I said, I've no interest in doing a funny one, I want to tell my story. And they're like, geez, Rory, like, you know, not many people like do a memoir like when they're only 6 years into their journey, but So when I sat down with the publisher and I said, listen, this is my story, and I thought that's interesting, and but I want to ghostwriter. I don't want to write this, not because I can't, because
You want it done.
I want it
just
done
right,
right, like, you know, and you know, as you can see, I can talk a lot, like, so I just felt that I do it just so I connected with Dermot Crowe from the Sunday Independent. Dermot approached me in 2016 maybe and asked me to do a story in Rory's story, and it ended up being front page of the Sunday Independent Sport. And I remember it well. I was at my cousin's stag in Carrigan Shannon, and I knew it was coming out that Sunday morning. And I remember getting up half cut and walking down to the local garage, and I'll never forget it. Like Sunday Independent, obviously, and I just lift over and I just see my face on the front page of the Sport. I was like, Rory has a story. I was like, oh my fucking God, lads! And I came back and the boys were all dying in the hotel. I was like, boys. Oh, shut up, you. Look, fucking front page of the Sunday Indo. And the boys like, oh, whatever. And I was like, here, read. And I actually said to one of the boys, here, read that, because I'm not good at reading. And my cousin Sean stood up in the bed dying, picks up this and starts reading it to everyone in the room, because I couldn't really read. Like, and I was there like McGregor, like going around me like, oh, that fucking sounds great. And so anyway, Dermot was my connection there. So I rang him and he said, yeah. So I worked on Dermot then. He used to come out to Ashburn, and we'd just for a connection purposes, there's a man called Christy Tormey, who's a great club man in our club. We dedicated a room to him, Christy Tormey room, and we done interviews in there. It just something spiritually told me.
Yeah.
Something felt connected with Christy, and Christy was always, he'd never tell you, but he was a fan of mine, but he always call you useless, but that's when you knew he liked you. He was just a real old school GA man, and I just felt really, I felt like he was nearly looking down on me, like, so I done an interview with Dermot, and the book came out, and it done really well as well, and I spoke a lot about my school and mental health and that, so that opened up another side to Rory stories, like people, like I remember the amount of emails and messages I got that Christmas being like, Rory read your book, and geez, I watched your videos but never seen this side of you. And then the following year, Hell Week came along. I was approached, I know if people are into law of attraction listening, I definitely am. I remember myself and my wife would often watch Hell Week and be like, do you know, I'd love to give that a shot. Like, you'd love to see
how
every human being wants to see what's in you, like, what is in you, like, you know. And I remember saying to him, it might last a day or 2 days. Anyway, sitting at home one day and an email popped in from a girl called Jen Sales and, hey, I work for a company, we're doing a Celebrity Hell Week, would you do it? And I said to them, oh my God. I was like, well, you have to. She was like, well, you can't say, like, you know, this is your chance. So I signed up to it, and I went to Cork and I'd done it, and I met Ray Goggins obviously from it, and Ray's an amazing individual, and I had a great chat with Ray, and we I said to him, I think we could do a bit of work together, and we done a mini tour called Resilience.
Yeah.
We done a gig in Vicar Street, and we done a gig in Galway and Limerick, and they went really well. Like, you know, we had the guts of a couple of thousand people there for the three gigs.
These are big venues, like, you know. Like,
I think we saw like, you know,
comedians in the world.
Yeah,
like
places, I think we saw like maybe 850 or 900 tickets in Vicar Street, so close to full house, and 500 in Limerick, 400, like big numbers, like, and people came, and it was me, Ray, and Mick, or Mike, sorry, used to do the MC, and we just chat about our lives and resilience, and it worked, like.
That's class, yeah.
So Ray,
and it's so different from
what I'm used to,
where you came from, in a way. Like, it's an amazing journey to go from that. That's why I was just kind of intrigued to ask you.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now, and like my wife often says to me, like, see, I'm in a weird predicament, because like the thing is with Rory Stories is because there's a million people, like 10-year-olds watch my stuff and 8-year-olds. You could come to Rory Stories gig and see a 17-year-old and an 8-year-old, and it's fucking hard.
A granny and a grandchild going together.
It's hard to put out content for that. So like, it's very rare I'd put out a video that everyone would relate to, like, you know. So you kind of have to understand if you're not going to hit figures, because it's certain niches. But it's funny, whenever I'm out and about, people do stop me and say, listen, you're gas here, but thanks for your mental health.
That's brilliant.
You know, and that means everything to me. And the reason I wanted to write that book was because I wanted the people to ever question that. Like, everyone is kind of jumping on mental health at the minute, like, and like, ever since, you could go back over my social media, when I had 2,000 followers, I was speaking about mental health, and now people know why, because of my story, and anyone to see me in Hell Week, the mental health shined and that as well, and it is what it is, emotions and that. But It is legit, very much close to my heart, and always will be. Like,
You're spot on. Like, again, in my industry, the fitness industry and stuff, there's a lot of people who I would say are kind of on the mental health bandwagon to an extent.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sit well with me, to be honest. But I think someone like yourself, who is so open and honest and raw about their experiences, you earn the right then to talk about it. And then you think you come from a much more genuine place. People relate to that. They relate to the story. That's a big part of the goal of this podcast, is to get guys in and talk about this sort of stuff, because I think lads in general were quite poor at opening up, and when someone tells you what you should do, you just close up straight away. I'm not listening to this. We don't like being told what to do. Whereas there's an organic conversation between two lads talking about life experiences, lads will kind of plug in and listen. And I think, like what yourself and Ray did on that stage, I think that's what a lot of people will take value of. You guys sharing your stories, and then they can plug in and take what's valuable from it is top class.
Yeah, well, like I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't think I was legit. Like I know,
but there's a lot of people who aren't like that.
Like, I know everyone has imposter syndrome. I've a bit of it as well, but I know deep in my soul that I'm legit. Like, and it's like everyone says, when you look at the man in the mirror, that's the man that knows if you're legit or not. And you can be a con to everyone you want, but you can't be a con to the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I know deep down that I am exactly what I preach. And I suppose Hell Week, that show, because I went so deep into my soul. And I remember Ryan Andrews saying to me after, he was like, Rory, the thing is, you've always had strong rep and that, and now people seeing it's legit. So when people go to hear you talk, they'll know it's legit. And
exactly, yeah.
and I wouldn't put my face down. And Ray Goggins, like, is another level.
He's a serious operator. Yeah,
he's 17 years in the Army Range Wing, so you can never question Ray's resilience, obviously. So I just felt we were a nice mix, and yeah, people really enjoyed it. And I know Ray is doing a lot of work now, and we've done a few gigs together for corporates. We've a couple of corporate gigs coming up now in the next couple of months together, and people enjoy it. And yeah, like, that's where a lot of my work is now, as well-being stuff. And I love it. Like, you know,
it's amazing to see where it's come from. Like, it really is just the journey of it. And like, it's great to talk about it, because it's not just you started here and like some of the lows you talked about there, like that first gig and you wanted to give up, you persevered, and then also like that vivid image, whatever, about being outside the casino. But I'd say that next day sitting at the kitchen table and having like your loved ones around you, like to think where you've come from there is unbelievable. So like, you do need to give yourself a pat on the back for that. It's unreal. Can I ask you one thing that just kind of popped into my head there? You said there about being on a stag with your cousins and your mates and stuff like that. What's it like going for a pint as Rory Stories? Like, because I'd say the whole country probably feels they know you to an extent, you know? Like, is it like when you're out for a few beers, are people looking for selfies? Are they coming over chat? Like, I'd imagine you probably have to be in good form all the time when you're out, which a lot of time is probably fine, but there's probably some days where it's taxing as well.
It's funny, yeah. So I keep it clean. So I generally,
because you're what are you 6'4" as well? So you stand out when you're out as well. That's what someone
said to me. Like, you have you're just like, I'm 6'4" and 19 stone. Like, you're kind of big fella. Like, so I don't really go out that much, because 3 young kids, I'm sure. I don't have much. Yeah. And when I do, I go to probably the Dunamore GA club, where no one gives a shit about you. And I love that. And
it's great,
it's funny, like, I remember after Hell Week, like, no matter where I went, like, people would stop me saying, Rory, I loved you on Hell Week and all that. Thanks so much. And I walked into the club, and the first thing the barman Pierre says to me is, "Here, Rory, we've Kleenex there whenever you need them." and I love
You're brought
that.
back to being Rory. You need that to keep you grounded.
Like, I bought a house in a very working class, normal part of Ashbourne with very normal, down there people, and I want to be there forever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the fame part of it. I nearly feel like saying to people, listen, I'm just normal. Like, don't be treated just because I've this profile. Just talk to me like I speak to anyone. So it can be a positive and a negative. Like, sometimes, like, you kind of have to be in good form all the time to people when you're in public eye. Like, so I don't really put myself in that position too often. Like, like I've a couple of stags lined up, like, very close friend and my cousin as well, that I can't avoid, and they're in the likes of Galways and Westports, and you're just going to have to.
That's what I'm going to reference the stag. You kind of have to go.
You're just going to have to, get on with it, and it is what it is.
Would you be on guard? Would you be careful
you
what
have
you drink?
To, like, as much as people are positive, there's other people that want to see you fall, so to be ready with a phone if you don't want stupid. Yeah. So, like I give an example of it can be difficult. Like, I went to Centre Parks with my family there in January. We've done the last 2 years now. Great spot. And again, like, you know, you just accept that, you know, it is what it is. It's real Irish based, so you're going to have people looking at you or coming up and saying, how are you, Rory?
Even when you're playing with your kids, it happens, yeah?
Yeah, and that's what the point I'm going to get to. So, like, sometimes my anxiety isn't great, so I'd be anxious that people are looking at me, and, you know, people, like, just everyone kind of can relate to that, but especially when you kind of are in the public eye, so you're worried about what you're doing on. So I went about my business, like, if people asked for photographs, of course I got photographs, and tried to smile as best I could at people and that. But it's funny, like, I got home, like, and I got a message off a fella online. He was like, what's it he said to me? He was like, God, I thought you were genuine. He said, myself and my partner walked by you the other day and he just grunted at me. I was going to go see live, but I'm not now, like. And, like, it's just like, fucking hell, like, I'm only human, like I have 3 young kids, 2 who are hard work, 2 and 4 who are hard to control at dinner time, hard to control in playgrounds. Like, sorry if I walk by you, and it's you know,
it's amazing the sense of entitlement people can get from when someone has a level of fame.
Yeah,
it's nuts. Like, it really is. It's
a bit like, you know, I would honestly like to think that anyone who has come up and spoke to me has had a decent experience. I try. I don't know. I naturally like chatting to people, so it's not a fake thing. It's just I like chatting to people. Sometimes they could have walked by and I could have had a row, you know, with the young lad for doing something, and you just, and whatever.
Timing is key in these things.
Timing is key,
especially when you've young kids,
like,
and you're sleep deprived and everything
he could
else.
probably go off and say, "I met your man, he's grumpy old bollocks," and, like, what can I do about that? It is what it is, like. But you like to think that, you know, you put enough good out there that, you know, enough people know that you're genuine. So, but it's just an example, isn't it? Like,
I think genuinely that comes true in abundance meeting you today. Like, it really is. And I think sometimes people forget when we have this, again, this level of fame, we'll call it the Insta fame of the 300,000 followers. Like, people forget that you're just a lad from Ashburn.
Yeah,
you know?
that's all I ever
and any lad
want
from
to be.
Ashburn with young kids is going to be in bad mood every now and then. It's just normal.
It's just normal, yeah.
Listen, Rory, this has been top class. I'd love to find out, like, we've spoke about everything that you've done so far. Kind of final question I'd have is, like, what's on the horizon now? Like, what's next for yourself, whether it's for Rory Stories or maybe you've more. I see you were, I was watching a thing recently, you did the TV show on RTE, up in Belfast, you did the cycling trails. Have you any more sort of stuff like that coming up?
Yeah, so I done that tracks and trails, which was a great experience. Like, you know, obviously, like, you know, presenting to something that will be in my radar, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah. It was out of my comfort zone because a lot of it was scripted, like, so I
honestly, I thought it came across really well.
Yeah.
I actually want to go up and do it. Like,
no, I really enjoyed it, and the crew I done it with were really nice people. Like, we had a great week, like, and I never lose perspective. Like, I was up there for 4 days, 2 in Belfast, 2 in Down, in County Down, and I remember, you know, just every now and again saying to myself that, like, I could easily be on the 103 bus heading into town to go to a 28 grand a year job that I hated, and here I am, and this is working. I never lose that, like, you know, and I think that's why I have such good work rates, because I know that I'm just, you know, very close to going back and sitting in an office and low pay, and you know, anyone who might be in that position that might be struggling with belief in themselves, it's just taking the risk and trying something different. So
out there, yeah.
So regarding what's coming up, so yeah, listen, without getting too excited, my best work is yet to come. Like, I filmed a documentary, a 3-part documentary in Mountjoy with Philly McMahon, obviously the Dubs legend. There before Christmas. Listen, an incredible experience. I think it's going to be on RTE in the end of April, you reckon? But
is it top secret? Can you give us a little?
Yeah, so basically it was it was kind of like a meme machines concept. So myself and Philly went in. We got 10 prisoners in the progression unit in Mountjoy, and from all walks of society, like, you know, we have lads from inner city Dublin, lads from Cavan, lads from Drogheda, lads from the traveller community. Like, we've all sorts of walks of life in Ireland, and they came together to form a team. And, you know, to play against the prison officers in Croke Park was the finale, and it was some roller coaster. Like, we're obviously done now, and I've been lucky enough to see a cut of episode 1 recently, and it's serious. Like, it's probably something that it'd be music to people's ears. Probably something that you wouldn't associate with Irish TV. Like it's like something you'd probably watch on Netflix.
My ears perked up straight away there. Like
yeah, like like I suppose any time cameras go into prison, people are fascinated. But this time it's probably groundbreaking because it's all there's no blurred faces. Like these lads are real human beings. Some are still in Mountjoy now. Some are in Loughlin House, the open prison. Some are out of prison, like, you know. But it was a humbling experience. And I said to Philly after, says, Philly, what we've learned in the 3 or 4 months in Mountjoy, you wouldn't get a degree in Trinity College over. Real human experience, like and. Yeah, I had a vision for we produced it with Motive who do Hell Week, like, so that connection was made from Hell Week, and myself and Jamie Dalton, who's the director there. We had this far-fetched idea in January last year, and I rang Philly, and Philly thought it was far-fetched, and Philly would know more than I do because Philly works in Mountjoy, doing courses with the prisoners. But I'm a firm believer in never give up on anything, and I didn't, and I put everything I had into this, as did Philly and the whole production team, and the lads were amazing. And I think it's going to be serious documentary, and it's very raw, very raw.
That sounds class.
Yeah.
When is that all going well? Going to be coming
out?
It'll
be, I think they're looking at end of April, so it'll be 3-hour or 3-piece 1-hour documentary. I think they're looking at RT1 on a Wednesday night, so prime time
Deadly,
for
man.
TV.
No,
like, so
unreal.
So watch this space is all I'd say. I think it's a documentary that the people of Ireland have been craving. Like, you know, because
that sounds like really intriguing.
You know, to make it even more close to home, one of my mates who I grew up with, who I played football with in Donaghmore, who would have won minor championships in Donaghmore, he's in Mountjoy.
Yeah.
And we spoke to him about cocaine addiction, and that's where he ended up there. And I know cocaine is the popular drug at the minute, but what people are going to learn from this is how much the addiction can grip you, and one of the lads speaks in the documentary about to feed his habit he needed to rob, and by robbing you end up in jail.
Exactly, yeah. It's amazing how such a fine line it is to end up on that. That's the wrong line. Isn't that hard at all?
When you see this documentary, you'll see these are normal lads. Like these are lads that we know, and because one of them is my mates, and I know he's from great stock. Great people, great fella. Like, never got in trouble up to this moment in his life. Like, was always good in school, and like never got in trouble with crime, and just got into the wrong game and bang, got nabbed or whatever. So listen, I'm super excited to see how it all unfolds. But what I do know is it'll be definitely worth watching. Like,
that sounds unreal. Really looking forward to that, man. Might even see you on the Late Late Show again. So after that,
maybe
the ultimate experience. Any measure of success, whatever, about the followers on Instagram, to be on the Late Late Show. I think there's still in Ireland that romantic view of when you're on the Late Late Show, you've done something right. So fair play to you, man.
Yeah.
So from just going to kind of summarize that, like, that was really, really enjoyable. I think anybody listening to this will find that fascinating, like all the stuff we spoke about there. Really appreciate your honesty, Rory. Really looking forward to that documentary coming out. And for a man who said, going back to that image of sitting at the kitchen table that day and being so open and honest with your partner and with your dad, where you've gone to now and what's on the horizon, is absolutely inspiring. I'd actually love to be, you're talking about those talks about the kids in school. I'd love a voice that a little bit younger, to have someone like yourself coming in and had that talk. That's probably the ultimate compliment I can give you for what you've done. I've massive respect on everything, and the very, very best of luck in the future. And thanks for your time today.
Cheers, pleasure. Thank you.